India deserves better than this. In India, here no one deserves this. Mass cremations, families cremating their dear ones in the footpath, bodies of the dead piling up inhumanly. People die because there are no oxygen cylinders or ICU beds or a doctor was not available. People die because we did not bother to unlock India's full capacity to produce vaccines. Why? Why have they come to this point? Unfortunately, it's not just the virus, it's also policy paralysis. The failure to act or the refusal to act or acting far too late. That is how we have dealt with the key aspects for the COVID crisis. By April 21st, we have almost 2 lakhs of people dead, over 20 lakhs of active cases and almost 3 lakhs new cases every day. Policy paralysis was a stick used to beat the UPA 2 government with. But this time, the cost of policy paralysis is many lives. Let's talk about vaccines. The government knew that vaccines were the key, but what was done to raise production? Almost nothing. While the countries like the US and UK gave advance funding to vaccine makers, India's biggest vaccine producers, Serum Institute and Bharat Biotech, got no government support. Serum Institute invested almost rupees 2000 crores of its own money and got rupees 2200 crores from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to increase capacity. Bharat Biotech rely on the internal resources, but why did Bill and Melinda Gates have the wisdom to support India's biggest vaccine makers and not our own government? By August 2020, the US government had invested Rs 44,700 crores, almost $6 billion across several vaccine companies including Moderna, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, even while they were developing their testing vaccines. That is what the governments do. They think ahead. Then why did we wait till 19th of April 2021 to advance 4,500 crores to our vaccine makers? The answer is lack of policy. And another fact is that India's current vaccine production capacity is not enough to meet even half of our monthly need of around 200 million doses. Our government has always known this, but to make up for the shortfall, did we book vaccines from other producers? The answer is no. By August 2020, the US had pre-booked 400 million vaccine doses from 4 different pharma companies. The European Union had pre-booked 800 million doses by November 2020. Do you know when India placed the first vaccine order? And that only for 16 million doses in January 2021. For a country of 1.3 billion people, why too little? Why too late? The answer is policy paralysis. Only now, with the second surge raging with deaths and active cases at all the time highs, only now has our government asked foreign vaccine makers to bring their vaccines to India. But those companies are now overbooked, pre-booked. Will they be able to supply vaccines to India immediately? No. Not before thousands more have died, lives that could have been saved. Let's talk about oxygen. See these desperate tweets. Again and again, families pleading for oxygen. Doctors are also pleading for oxygen. Several state governments are asking for the center for oxygen. In the second COVID surge, many have been killed not by the virus but by oxygen shortage, lives that could have been saved. The website Score reports that in October 2020, already many months late, the Modi government floated tenders for 162 oxygen producing units to be set up in 150 district hospitals across India. Today, 6 months later, do you know how many of these 162 units have been installed? Only 33. In UP, out of 14 oxygen units, do you know how many oxygen units have been installed? Only 0. Is there a shortage of oxygen at these 150 hospitals today? Yes, there is, because of which people are dying. Do we know why? Yes, it is policy paralysis. The cost of these 162 oxygen units, whole of them was just 200 crores, a tiny amount for our government. But there wasn't enough interest in getting the job done. Next, have you heard of B.1.167? It's an Indian origin double mutant strain of the coronavirus. Many experts believe that it's the main cause of the second COVID surge, the main cause of thousands of deaths that we have seen now. But do you know when the strain of the virus was detected? It was on the 5th of October 2020. Immediately, red flags should have gone up. Thousands of the samples of this strain should have been put with genome sequencing to understand it and to treat it better. Maybe we should have to modify India's vaccines to counter these deadly strain. But again, we move too slowly. An Indian Express report says we did nothing in October, November and December. 14 January, a COVID genomic consortium, a network of 10 labs was created to speed up genomic sequencing in India with a budget of Rs 115 crores. But it's April now. These labs have achieved very little. Do you know why? Because the central government did not give a 115 crores to the Department of Biotechnology. The department was told to find the money on its own, and the department was able to allocate a first amount of 80 crores only by 31st of March. 6 priceless months after this deadly strain was actually detected. And we all know by 31st March, the second surge had already gone out of hand and lakhs of cases, thousands of deaths, lives that we failed to save. Why? It's all because of, we can say that it is policy paralysis. There are other questions too. Why was a go-ahead given to religious gatherings like Kumbh Mela? After first allowing a mega super spread, it was hurriedly wrapped up and we already know the damage that have already done. Then again, why permission was given for massive election rallies and finally came the lockdown. Last year's lockdown policy was seriously flawed, being imposed without warning, stopping all trains and buses forcing lakhs of workers to get caught up in the middle of the pandemic. And the government congratulates itself that it imposed the world's largest lockdown. For whose dear ones are dying, struggling for ICU beds, oxygen cylinders, vaccines across the country, we can say that they all deserve better.